My name is Bob Lundin, and I'm from Glen Ellen, Illinois. I've lived in Glen Ellen for about 30 years, and now I half live in Elgin because I'm out here all the time, going to the Awakenings studio. Let me tell you just a little bit about Awakenings first. Awakenings is a group of people who live with mental illnesses and who have brought other people with mental illnesses into artistic exploration. We take people who have had mental illness, people who have had what they call the lived experience, and we bring them from places of alienation into acceptance, and we accept them into the idea of art and being a part of an art project. And we started off with NAMI, Illinois in 1997 with an art show there. And the art show, we expected, maybe 7 or 8 people would come with their art. Well, we had 50 people come with their art, and it was tremendously successful. And it just was the catalyst that ignited the Awakenings Project. And so the Awakenings Project's been going since actually 1996. We first did our first organizational meetings. The first art show was in 1997. And then in 2000, we developed another arm of the Awakenings Project, which would encompass the literary arms. So we started a literary journal called the Awakenings Review, and it's been going since now the year 2000, so it's going for 25 years. And this is the most recent copy, and it comes out twice a year. We did it once a year for a long time, but then I retired, and so now I have more time to do it, and so we're doing it twice a year. But I just wanted to say anyway, before I get going, I wanted to say that there are actually, you might know this already, but there are actually 2 seasons in Illinois, winter and road construction.
That's true.
It's true. And I had a face on road construction coming up here, but I got here. And so I was early, almost early. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking today about a concept of 2 types of success. And we define success in 2 areas, one that I call visible success, and the other one that I call invisible success. Visible success is what we all see. Visible success is things like a great resume, living in a great house and address, making lots of money, having lots of awards, things that would go on your resume, things that we celebrate. Everyone celebrates as part of success in our culture. But then I also say there are people who start with deficits, who start with things that have been problematic for them. Things like disability, things like racism, things like incarceration, things like people that have these deficits that they have to cope with. Now, all of us cope with deficits. I mean, it's nothing unique to everyone. But we have these people that have had what I call invisible success, or people that have coped with and succeeded despite these deficits, people who have done really remarkable things and just get along, just to get along with having an invisible success. That's something that's really remarkable. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is this idea of success that we see and success that's invisible, that people don't broadcast the fact that they're living with a mental illness, or they don't broadcast the fact that they're living in a new culture and having to adopt a new language. People have success that's invisible. And so We have to ask basically what is success in our culture. And success is something that is visible and easily recognized. It stands out as a clear marker of achievement, drawing admiration and respect. These successes are widely acknowledged and often celebrated. They feature prominently in biographies and resumes, becoming benchmarks of a person's worth or capability. Visible successes bring pride and a sense of self-importance. They stepping stones to personal achievement and social recognition. These are the successes that we like to celebrate in our culture. And these are things that are easy to celebrate because everybody sees them, everybody is aware of them, everybody kind of agrees with them. So what is a visible success? Well, one visible success is a prestigious job. This guy right here, I love this picture. He must be a successful architect or some sort of person like that. He has a successful job. We measure success by the job you have. And if the job is particularly prestigious, or the job is particularly interesting, or the job is particularly heralded, then that's the visible success that you have from a job. Also, education. Education is another benchmark that we use for visible successes. Where, especially if you've gone to a prestigious university, a prestigious institution, where did you get your degree? What kind of degree do you have? Do you have a master's? Do you have a doctorate? Do you have an MD? Do you have a JD? All these different educational backgrounds that indicate a certain amount of success. We grade success by a person's education. And then another thing that's often used to gauge success, and that is your income. How much money do you pay? What kind of car do you drive? And we talk about the six-figure income, making that special 6 figures. Income is another way that we measure success in our culture, and it's easily seen by your lifestyle and what you buy and where you go to eat what restaurants do you go to, et cetera. Also, another very visible success is your residence. Where do you live? What's your address? How big is your house? How many rooms do you have? Who was the architect that designed your house? It begins a very exclusive real estate, things like that. So your residence is another area of strong, visible success. Awards and prizes. This is another indication of visible success, and there are lots of awards, of course, that you can think about, but the ones that we see right here is, I think, a Grammy Award, and I can't tell you the name of this actress, but
Louis-Dreyfus?
Yeah.
Yeah, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and that probably is a Academy Award or an Emmy. It may be an Emmy because she did a lot of television.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was on Seinfeld.
People, and if you didn't hear that, people in this room know who she is, and oh my gosh, I know she is. But anyway, awards and prizes. I mean, it can go to a little award, or it can go to something like a Grammy or an Emmy or an Academy Award, or you get into like a Nobel Prize and different, the Presidential Award of Freedom, things like this. People measure their success by the awards that they've gotten and the awards that they can talk about.
I want the MHA award for print media.
Irene just reminded me that I have to brag a little bit here. The Awakenings Review, which I talked about a few minutes ago, and this is literary journal produced, we were actually selected by a group called the Mental Health America. one of the national mental health organizations that selects media awards. We were given a media award this last year in September of last year, and they flew me to Washington, and I accepted it and gave a big speech in front of a few people. And so that was kind of exciting, but thank you for reminding me of that, Irene. So that's an award that I'm, well, then also everyone who works on the Awakening Tribune was very proud of. Everybody, I mean, it's just not, it's everybody that works on the Awakening Tribune. And also another area of success that we often talk about is like notoriety and publicity. Now, if you're a government official, you're going to get a lot of notoriety. You're going to be in the news. If you're a famous actor or famous actress, you're going to get a lot of notoriety. People are going to see you, they'll know your face, things like that. So notoriety and publicity, even some people say if you get bad publicity, that gives you a certain amount of notoriety. And so notoriety and publicity is another area of visible success that we see. Athletic expertise, professional athletes get a lot of kudos. They're impressive, and there are people also that are very successful in our culture, who are the golfer, but basketball players and football players, hockey players, and et cetera, that have gotten a lot of visible success through their achievements. And also, I'd like to add that artistic talent is something that is very visibly acceptable and successful. And we do a lot of work with the Awakenings Project with artists. We see some really remarkable people that really come through our doors and that we're able to display exhibits of, things like that. What do you also think, like a conductor of a symphony or a famous blues singer, or other people that have artistic ability? That's something else that's very much defined as visible success in our culture. Fame, of course, fame, that of course that stands for itself. I mean, people that are famous are admired and are heralded and are celebrated, and they have very obvious visible success. The social circle that you have, the people that you affiliate yourself with, that you hang with, they also are certain part of your visible success. So what does a person gain from visible success? Of course, there's prestige that's involved with it. You get a certain amount of power and influence in your job. You get promotions, you get advancement. You get a certain amount of popularity. People want to know you. People want to be by you. People want to be affiliated with you. You get a certain amount of social status. And we all can, the social status is measured in some ways. They have a publication called Who's Who, and if you're in Who's Who in America, you've made it. You've got a little biography in their publication. Or they used to have, I think they still do have, what's called the Social Register, which started in New England. Then it was people who started way back in the 19th century. It was people that had the right connections and old money and social connections and things like that. That was called the Social Register. So you get a certain amount of social status, you get visible success, and wealth, of course. So there are also, I have to admit, and I have to also talk about the fact that there are some shortcomings to visible success. There's some shortcomings. It's not always advantageous to an individual. Sometimes people that are striving for visible success are competitive. They can be very competitive to a fault. it's kind of ironic, but certain people that have a sense of inferiority might strive for doing something that's remarkable and celebrate. They might have a sense of inferiority, actually. They might have moral shortcomings. In a second, I'll talk about a man named Bernie Madoff who had a Ponzi scheme. I'm not sure if everybody knows what a Ponzi scheme is, but he had a Ponzi scheme. He was tremendously successful for that, but he had real serious moral problems with his Ponzi scheme. And also, people that strive for visible success might have hollow goals. They might have goals of just reaching the next level and not appreciating where they are or who they are. And it might mask a certain bit of blind ambition. So with visible success, there might be an intoxication with power, money, and prestige that can lead to misconduct. And ultimately, visible success may be unfulfilling and fleeting. So there are disadvantages to this invisible success. And there are notable individuals who have had great visible success who have had great failures also, and I'll list just a few of them. One was Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes is really not our generation. He's the previous generation. But he was a billionaire, and he was an innovator, and he was an aviator, and he was all sorts of important things. He fell apart. He had very severe mental illness. He had, I believe, OCD, and he fell apart from that obsessive-compulsive disorder. Well, anyways, Howard Hughes was one of the wealthiest people in the world, known for his innovations in aviation and film. Yet, despite his visible success, he became increasingly paranoid and reclusive, suffering from severe mental health issues. His immense wealth and achievement couldn't provide him with inner peace or happiness. Another person that I just mentioned a second ago was Bernie Madoff. And Bernie Madoff had as I just said, had a very successful Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme is kind of an illegal, manipulative financial scheme that bilks investors of their money, and he did it very successfully. And not only was he successful there, but he was also very successful socially, and he became the director of the largest Ponzi scheme. And what was it? It was that very important, I can't figure it offhand, but it was a very, very important financial institution. And another person who had great visible success and kind of moral shortcomings despite that was Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France bicycle race 7 times. He was 7 times winner. And he had tremendous, and actually talk about invisible success, he had tremendous visible success because he was a cancer survivor and has still achieved this remarkable physical, athletic achievement while having had cancer, serious cancer. But he was so obsessed with success that he ended up doping. He ended up using illegal means to win his awards or his Tour de France, and he had his win stripped from him, and he went down in disgrace. But that was somebody who had great visible success, who was unable to stay in that league, who was unable to be able to succeed. Another one that I'd like to mention is a guy named Kurt Cobain, a musician and lead singer of a group called Nirvana, had terrible problems with depression, terrible problems with self-image, but was very successful. He is a very successful musician, very popular. He ended up, as you may know, he ended up taking his own life. Very, very sad situation. Again, there's somebody who also had very great invisible success. He had the very great depression and mental illnesses. He succeeded, but success was hollow to him and was very difficult for him. And as I said, he took his own life. Okay, now these are people that have had visible successes. What about people with invisible success? And how do we express invisible success in our culture? What is invisible success? As I said before, not all people have the ability or opportunity to pursue visible success. A lot of people have come up with having disadvantages. A lot of people have come up with having disabilities. A lot of people have come up with having to work or having to cope with incarceration, having to cope with sexism, having to cope with homophobia, all these different invisible markers that become invisible successes because these people have succeeded. They have succeeded despite the fact that they have a lot of disadvantages. That's what makes somebody special in many other ways, and that's what I'd like to talk about in this talk, about people that have invisible successes. Yet they are successful, and success for them is invisible. Rather than achieving wealth, prestige, or notoriety, invisible success for these brave people comes in the form of coping and thriving despite multiple setbacks and disadvantages. They live with severe illness or disability. They face homophobia, sexism, or racism. They're living through a traumatic upbringing or toxic relationships. They're adapting to a new culture, a new language. This, I think, is very important with people who have immigrated to the United States, say from Latin American countries, and they have to learn a new culture. They have to learn a new language. That's a great burden on them, but they still are successful, and they should be admired for having that invisible success. And incarceration, that's a terrible blow to somebody. And I'll talk a little while about a poet who has been incarcerated, who's done very great things, who's done very great poetry, and has had a lot of celebration and a lot of important awards. Invisible successes are often hidden, they're secreted, and not widely acknowledged. So what does a person gain from invisible success? What's the advantage to invisible success? Well, you should give somebody a certain amount of courage. They've had courage to continue to live, to thrive despite their disabilities. A certain amount of humility, a certain amount of perseverance and resilience. Resilience is a factor that people with invisible successes become greatly resilient, and they show a great deal of courage and resilience. Inspiration and faith, a certain amount of empathy that I have, and should have and do have by certain people that are aware of it, do have a certain amount of admiration. People admire other people with invisible successes who have gotten along, and maybe have not only gotten along, but have thrived despite their invisible success. So there are barriers, though. There are barriers for people striving for invisible success, barriers they must face. And what is a lack of public recognition? The public does not recognize invisible success. The public recognizes visible success. Those are very, very easy and widely celebrated, widely perceived, but people with invisible successes are not so widely noticed, not so widely recognized, even though in the final analysis they've done extremely well. People with difficulty explaining their achievements. How do you go to a job interview and say, well, I've coped with serious illness for my entire life? And how do you say that and communicate that in a way that somebody that's interviewing you will understand that you have really surmounted real difficulties? So there's a difficulty in explaining your achievements. And also there's a feeling of isolation. People that have had invisible success says since society often overlooks invisible achievements, individuals feel isolated or misunderstood. So you might feel isolated for having a visible or an invisible success, rather. And people will often judge or misunderstand you for your having invisible success. People don't recognize it. They judge you as unsuccessful or unambitious. Now recognizing the inner achievements they've worked so hard for, that's what is a problem with misunderstanding invisible success. And also, invisible success may not set you up for great wealth jobs that make a lot of money for the 6-figure income. It's like invisible success, you may not have that financial boost or that financial resource, that ability to earn money because of your disadvantages. So you don't earn a lot of money. People are like, well, he's not successful. He drives a car that's old and used, or he lives in a group home rather than living in a fancy apartment. So what I'd like to talk about now are 5 notable people who have earned exceptional invisible success. These are people that not only had the disadvantages of invisible success, but have thrived despite them, have thrived to a point that they are greatly admired. One is a woman named Temple Grandin. I'll just read this. A professor of animal science, a prominent advocate for autism awareness, and the inspiration of an Emmy award-winning documentary, Grandin overcame significant barriers associated with her autism to achieve professional success and transform livestock handling practices. Her achievement demonstrated resilience and innovation despite facing challenges that were often misunderstood or unseen. So there apparently was a movie about her, she was tremendously successful despite autism. A woman named Ellen Sachs. So Ellen Sachs is a legal scholar, author, and advocate who holds the Owen B. Evans Distinguished Professorship at USC School of Law. Despite living with schizophrenia, she has achieved remarkable success contributing to mental health awareness through her memoir, The Center Cannot Fold, My Journey Through Badness. Somebody with a serious mental illness who is having a great deal of success. This one right here I think is particularly remarkable. His name is Jean-Dominique Balbi. He's the editor of the French Elle magazine, who has had massive stroke, who had a massive stroke, which led to profoundly debilitating. He famously wrote The Diving Bell and the Butterfly by blinking his left eyelid to select letters. Can you imagine that? He has a computer and he writes a book by blinking his left eye and then letters on the screen. Just tremendous ability. And I know another person that I'll talk about that a little bit, Nancy Frost, also has the the same incredible quality. And his story highlights an immense inner strength and the triumph of the human spirit over invisible, extreme physical and communicative barriers. This guy, John Beneath Balby. Another man named Nick Berzik, he was born without arms and legs. He has become a motivational speaker and author, inspiring millions. His story is an incredible example of finding purpose and success despite profound physical challenges and societal biases. I've seen him. He's a very engaging speaker. And Marlene Martin, she's an actress, an Academy Award-winning actress, author, and advocate. Deaf since infancy, she became the first deaf performer to win an Oscar for her role in Children of a Lesser God. Madeline has broken barriers in the entertainment industry and is a prominent advocate for the deaf community and disability rights. So there are several people who have had tremendous success despite their invisible challenges. But I would also like to talk about people who I know and people who I admire that have had invisible success. I think a great deal of visible success in their life. It may not have an Oscar-winning movie about them, but they've really done remarkable things and they've really achieved. People I really admire. One of them is one of our artists for the Awakenings Art Show, Dori Pani. She was, I'll just read it. She was thrust into American culture from Uganda at the age of 5. Dori Pani has faced racism nearly all her entire life. She was in her teens when she first developed an eating disorder, anorexia, which brought her weight down to a frightening 70 pounds. Through sheer will and creativity, Pani has surmounted her mental illness and today works a full-time job while managing her invisible challenges. I don't know if people are aware, I'm sure many people in this room are aware that eating disorders are very, very difficult to recover from. And also there's some of the deadliest mental illnesses that there are. People dying of anorexia, dying of losing weight. Dori has actually succeeded and has coped with a very serious mental illness as an eating disorder and anorexia. And here's another person that deserves our admiration. And I know this person is very dear to Irene and Sandy, who have really taken an interest in her and been real angels to her. Nancy, if I say this, Ross or Borelis? Boros. Courage in facing ALS. Lou Gehrig's disease has garnered her a strong community of supporters who admire her bravery and resilience. Acknowledging the terminal nature of her illness, her determination has inspired a campaign to fund the care needed for her to spend her final days at home rather than in the nursing facility where she currently resides. Very touching, poignant sort of idea. She wants to die at home. She knows she's terminally ill. She's very debilitated from her illness, but she just wants to die at home. I mean, that's very, very, very poignant thing to consider. Sam Box is one of the writers who's contributed to the Awakenings Review several times. She's a very talented writer in Wyoming. Despite over 50 hospitalizations since 1978 for a devastating schizoaffective disorder, Sam Box was able to earn an MFA in creative writing from the University of Montana. Her fiction, nonfiction, and poetry have appeared in multiple magazines and anthologies. She resides in Missoula, Montana, where her ongoing battle with mental illness continues to deeply enrich her life and work. And something interesting about Zan is that she uses her experiences with mental illness as motivation and characters to develop her stories. She's a short story writer of great talent. Another person I'd like to talk about is Paul Halbeck. Paul Halbeck and I got to be friends a number of years ago, and I'll just read it. Paul, who was born in Illinois, from an early age has dealt with and overcome a serious neurological condition which has left him unable to walk or use his limbs easily. Quote, "These challenges have ingrained within me a great perseverance, and my philosophy has become never, never, never give up. After my career in Illinois, I took off to Colorado to Bible school, and together with my faith in God, I have also become a Christian author of several books. He has been really debilitated physically debilitated, and he has succeeded greatly despite that. This is a woman that I got to know at Glen Ellen Library, and she's a woman who calls herself, or she is named J9 Vaughn. J9 has had great visible success in managing a number of gender and neurodivergent challenges in life. They have worked full-time as an adult programming librarian, but not without coping with chronic migraines and mobility issues. They identify as queer, non-binary, and polyamorous while managing dyslexia and ADHD. J9 attributes another of their invisible successes to coping with the emotional strain of growing up in a Southern Baptist church, which obviously she was not cut out for a Southern Baptist church. Another man who I think deserves great admiration, who I heard about through my dealings in the Awakenings Review and with one of our authors who was mentored to Dan Grunt. He's a remarkably successful poet and writer, incarcerated in the United States Penitentiary Canaan in Weimar, Pennsylvania. Grunt said that his career as a writer began with a free correspondence course into creative writing, where his extraordinary talent was recognized. Despite the immense challenges of being behind bars where he is forbidden even the use of a typewriter, Grunt a pushcart nominee. As you say, pushcart nominees is a very prestigious award in the small press business. Pushcart nominee has had 40 plus publications in print and online. So with the great disadvantage of being in prison, he has really shown remarkable success. This is a man from my church in Glen Ellen. His name was Mario Castro. And born in Mexico, Mario arrived in the United States with his wife and 2 young children over 12 years ago to work in a renowned electronic design and manufacturing company in Illinois. On his journey as an immigrant, he had to leave behind the rest of his family, roots, and history to start a new life where invisible challenges have been constant. He faces this new chapter with faith and hope that everything has been worth it despite difficulties. I think that's something that we could really be conscious of today, is people who have come to this country, have immigrated to this country, other cultures, and succeeded and been able to, and I was talking about invisible success. I'll give you one little example that I think demonstrates what invisible success is. Most people started a foot race at the starting line. We all start at the starting line until the gun goes off and everybody runs for a race. Well, there's some people with invisible success that start 10 yards behind the start. When the gun goes off to start everyone, they're 10 yards behind. If they catch up, and when they catch up to the pack, they have succeeded. They have done incredible work in succeeding their invisible challenges. And Mario is somebody that has gotten a lot of admiration in my church for the success that he's had. And we can transform attitudes and behaviors that neglect invisible success. We can transform them. We can broaden how we as a culture define success. We can go beyond what is visible. We can define invisible success as success. One thing I hope that anybody will get an idea from this particular talk today is that there are people that you should admire who have had great visible success. They don't have the celebrated parts of visible success, but they have had great invisible success, and they deserve your admiration for that. And there's, I tried to add, or I kind of had a change in my own attitude. I have started to admire people who have really come from behind and done extraordinary things. So in changing that, we can change attitudes about success. We can teach a broader concepts of success, include discussions at schools, public forums, and workshops about success beyond achievements you can see. Recap the story of those who've overcome adversity or contributed in invisible but meaningful ways. Promote new attitudes. We can celebrate personal journeys in the media. The media can talk about people who have had invisible successes. And I have to say with some pride that the Awakenings Project, which I talked about here, has gotten a lot of publicity. And we've been in the media. And so, and we hope that we've been able to bring this idea of success to a larger audience, a larger reading outward. Develop supportive environments, flexible work and study. Offer arrangements that respect different needs and necessities for people with challenges and disabilities. Have mental health and resilience. Schools and workplaces should have programs that promote psychological health, emotional well-being, and resilience, acknowledging that these traits are valuable markers of success. Train leaders to value diverse contribution. Teach leaders to look deeper, to look at the invisible successes of people that they come in contact with, work through peer recognition, and advocate for a fair shake and financial support. So that's my presentation, and I hope if there's anything that you'll take from it, what I said just a second ago is that you'll look at somebody and realize, my gosh, that person has really succeeded in life. They may not have a fancy car, they may not live in a fancy neighborhood, they may not have fancy education degrees, but they have really succeeded, and they should be admired for that success. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.